So let's start from the scratch. So assuming that you have installed your Eclipse and Java environments properly, so you also created a shortcut for Eclipse, okay, somewhere, maybe on your desktop or somewhere. So click on the shortcut for Eclipse to launch that. Okay, so every time, unless you actually chose this box to say you want to use the default workspace every time, but I would suggest maybe not to choose this box. Okay, you can also unselect it later. So this is the path, we call it a file path to say where you want to store all your Java projects, right? So in this case, it's going to store under users, my name, documents, and workspace since I'm using a Mac. But if you're using Windows, it might be D drive, workspace, and etc. Or even be, you can, let's say under your D drive, you can create a folder called CSE114. Under that, you can create another folder called maybe workspace. So it's completely up to you. Okay, as soon as you created your workspace folder, you can select that from here. Okay, so once you do that, you will say OK. Okay, it's going to launch the Eclipse. If you're launching that the first time, it's going to take a little bit longer, but only the first time. And also the first time, you might see something slightly different from this. Maybe you'll see like a welcome tab, right? What you got to do is just close that welcome tab. Okay, close that, it will only bother you for once, not anymore. So now, what we are seeing here is like the IDE. So it stands for Integrated Development Environments. So we're going to write our Java programs here, and somehow magically it will be converted into some machine code, which you don't have to understand how. And then we're also going to execute the Java programs from Eclipse. So everything will be done from Eclipse. And there are also many online tutorial videos on Eclipse, in which case, if you're interested, you can also watch them. But I would say the lab session should be sufficient. Okay, so here you will see many things here. Let me just show you a few useful tips for Eclipse. So if you go to Eclipse here, for example, you will see Eclipse. You can go to Preferences. If you go there, there are many things you can customize your programming environments. So one thing that might be very useful to you would be if you go under Java here, and you can go to, for example, editor, and then editor here, you can actually change the font size. If you go to you can go to colors and fonts, and then etc. You can change the font size of your program text. That's something very useful for you. Okay, you can actually play with the preferences. I wouldn't go too deep into it. You can play with that. And one thing that will also be very useful is something here. So if you go under Window here, Window, and then Show View. So this will actually show you different views for your projects. So the one that's particularly useful will be Console. So Console will be usually where your program outputs will be. Okay, Console is one thing. And also Error Log. So it shows you what kind of errors you have. Okay, that will also be useful. And also Outline. So outline kind of shows the structure of your Java class. So a class in Java, which we'll talk about in much greater details later in the course, but briefly speaking, class is like a basic file in Java. Okay, so Java, well, whenever you're doing any Java project, you will have a series of files, and each one of them is a class. Okay, that's how you think of it. But I think for the first few weeks, we have only one single class for your projects. Okay, think of class as a file at the moment. Okay, and then you have also Package Explorer, and which I will also show you. And then also within a single project, you can have also several packages like folders. Okay, so these might be a new concept to you, but just take some time to get used to. So I'll try to illustrate to you how they can be done. Okay, so whenever you actually want to see a different perspective, you can go to Window and Show View, and this is what you need. Okay. Okay, so now let's say we want to create a new project. So for your case, maybe this part is simply empty. So there's something called Package Explorer. Okay, so let me just widen this a little bit. You can always play with the interface here. So you can see something called Package Explorer. If you don't see it, you can go back to Window and Show View and click on Package Explorer. It will just come back. Okay, that's how you do it. And now, let's say I want to create a new project. Okay, you would say File, New, and then Java projects. Okay, in case you actually downloaded or the lab machine, they actually downloaded a different version of the Eclipse. In which case, you will actually have to say projects over here, and you have to go under Java and then Java projects. That will also work. Okay, you just want to create a Java project. That's it. Okay, if you say Java project here, you just need a name of the Java projects. So as I said in the instruction there, CSE114. It's a bit long, but it's actually a consistent naming that can last for the whole semester. So CSE114, and then Spring 16, and Week01, and then we have Lab1. So because each week we actually have one single lab, 2 labs. Okay. If you like, you can even say 01. Doesn't matter. Okay. Let's put 01 for now. Okay, just that, and don't worry about other things. Other things you can just leave them as is. Okay, you say finish. So now this is the new project I just created. Okay, so now that's task number 1, and task number 2. Create a new class Hello World in the projects. So the way to do it is by right-clicking on the projects over here. Right-click on that, say new, and then you can have class. Since we already said the project itself is a Java project, so when you say create a class, it's really going to create a Java class. Okay. So new, and then you say class over here, and now we just need a name. So there are many other things we might do, so let's not bother for now. Okay. So now you want the project here, Hello World. Okay. One trick I would like to show you. Okay, Hello World here. So you will see that over here, so there's a useful option for today. One of the boxes is called public static void main and string args, things like that. So it can save you some typing. If you click on this box here, when you generate a class, it's going to put some line for you, so you can save your typing. Okay, or you can type it manually yourself. It's completely up to you. I'm going to show you both options. So let's say I do click on this box here, and let's see what happens. If I click on this box over here, and then I say finish. Okay, so you can also maximize the view for the class. You can double click on this tab here. So now you can see the views are temporarily, they disappear temporarily. But you can put them back by simply double clicking on the same tab again. So they are back. Okay, double click the tab and double click the tab, like that. Okay, so now this part, because we actually chose the box, right? That's why they put this fragment of code for us. So you don't actually have to type. Let's say you forgot, you didn't check the box. So it would generate something like this. Okay, but how do we put a main method there? So there's a trick over here. What you gotta do is to say main, like that, control space. Okay, control space is the key. It's a shortcut in Eclipse. Okay, type main, and then you say control space, and now it actually gives you a drop-down menu to say, what would you like to complete on this main? So the first option there, say main, the main method. If you click on that, it's going to give you this fragment of code again. So again, you can save your typing. Okay. You just gotta try, it's not difficult. If you really got trouble, again, talk to me. That's another way of doing it. And if you really don't like it, just type it. Right? It doesn't take long. Okay, that's it. So I would say this is really the kind of the skeleton of your Java class. Okay, you need a class. So don't worry too much about what a class really means, what static, what public, what void, what main, all sorts of nonsense now. That's okay. In a quiz, so before I talk about these stuff, in a quiz, I'm going to give you these. So you don't have to write them out. There's no point of memorizing them. Okay? Just when you do the projects, you have to know you do need the class and the main method. And I'll just show you how to create it, how to create the main method. Okay, let's do something useful. Okay, so now let's see how we can do the simplest Java program. And there's one thing I didn't mention in the lecture today. So when you're writing a program, so of course you have to write some valid Java syntax for sure. But you can also write something called a comments. You can actually write down something for yourself to remind you that later on when you look at your Java code, it can actually remind you about the details of the code. What do I mean? So in Java, there are two ways to do this. you can either say double slash, okay? You can put some whatever nonsense you like, okay? For example, in this case, I want to say the line below prints hello world. So this is somehow is trying to explain to whoever is reading the code. This is actually how you're gonna understand the code. That's one way. Or you can also say, so there are two ways to do the comment, either slash slash, or you put a star star in between. So it's like a slash star star slash. In between, you can say the line. I'm just showing you. So below prints hello world. So what's the advantage of the second kind of comments? When you have comments that will actually span for multiple lines, that's where you use it. So now let's say I want to write different lines of comments. I can hit enter over here, and now I can do another line of comments, and then the line, I don't know, I'm just repeating. Oops, I think there's a typo here. Okay. So why are comments useful? Let's say when you're doing your assignments, your assignment might require to write maybe about 100 to 200 lines of code. So when you're developing your code, you really want to write some comments to remind yourself, why am I doing this part? Why am I doing that part? So later on, when you revisit your code, you can quickly refresh your mind how you did it. Okay, that's the usefulness of the comments. But as we do the lab session, I will show you more about how comments can be used. For this lab, that should be sufficient. Okay, so one thing to note, the comments are only supposed to be read by humans like us. So this will not be compiled into machine code. Okay, that's something you can you have to know. So they are ignored by the machine. Okay, so let's write something that will be compiled into the machine. So I'm afraid you have to somehow memorize this a little bit, okay? But in the quiz or in the test, I will also give that to you. Okay, you don't have to memorize, but just for the lab, just more convenient for you to write. Otherwise, you gotta look it up each time. So you're gonna say system.out.println. So this means I'm going to print something to the console, to the output. So if you say that, so I want to print something. So whenever I want to print a message, I have to put a message within double quotes. So single double quotes and quotes within the quotes. So now I have this. I can say, "Hello, world!" Explanation maybe. Okay. So this part of the we call string in Java. So that's something I will talk about on maybe Friday. So that's called a string in Java. Okay. So this string here is going to be printed to the console literally, verbatim. Hello world. Let's try. Okay, that's the simplest program you can get in Eclipse. But how do you run it? And make sure, there's something to note. Have a look at the tab over here. Do you see there's a star over here, right? On the left of the hello world. Every time if you make a change, it's going to show you a star over there. A star there means you haven't saved your file. Okay, so something very important to note. Eclipse compiles your source code only when you save the file. If you somehow change your program without recompiling it, somehow you're running the old version of the Java code. Okay, so make sure you always save your file. Okay, if you save your file, and let's try to run it. So now let me go back to my package explorer. So now you can right click on the class and say, you gotta search, look for that option, run as Java application. Okay, that's what you need. Let me do it again. So if you right click on the class over here, and then you would say run as Java application. If you do that, you see in the console here, it says hello world. Okay, are we good? So now, can I challenge you? Could you print hello, your name instead? For example, hello Jackie, hello Jonathan, hello Jim. How would you do that? Okay, I'll give you maybe 1 minute to do it. Very easy. So remember, what we have done so far is to print this so-called string literally. So if you modify that string, whatever that's being modified will be printed out instead, right? So if you say your name here rather than hello world, of course it's going to print your name instead. Okay, think about how you can do that. Very easy. It's not hard. The only thing you have to make sure is the string has to be quoted within the double quotes. And of course, once you have done the change, make sure you save the file, so the file will be compiled into machine code, and you have to rerun the Java and rerun the program. Okay, let me do it. For example, I can change the world to my name, Jackie here. So you see, rather than world, I now have Jackie, right? So now, let me go back to where I was. So of course, I saved the file. That's why I didn't see any star over here. Okay, right-click and run again. Run as Java application here. So now it says, hello, Jackie, rather than hello world, right? Let me go back over here. Okay, so far so good? Okay, good. So that's basically, we are up to exercise number 3. Okay, so now we're in item 3. Oh, actually, number 4. We have just done number 4. Number 4 says to modify the above program so that it outputs a different greeting message. That's what I did. Let's just try another one for fun. What about hello, SUNY Korea, for example? So now, rather than my name, SUNY Korea. Okay, if you do that, right-click, and then run as Java application. If you do that, it says hello, SUNY Korea, right? Okay, very easy. Okay, yeah, we're just modifying the string that it prints out. So let's move on to number 5. Number 5 should be very easy. So first of all, we have to create a new class called Hello World 2. So today we're actually going to have different versions of Hello World, so you can see how simple things can be changed in a different way. So now number 5, we're going to create a new class called Hello World 2. So now you can right-click on your project or right-click anywhere within the projects. So you would say new and then a class, right, over here. And now this time we're going to have hello. Okay, so you see, if I say hello world, actually the Eclipse complains saying hello world is already there, so you cannot create a duplicate. That's why you had to say hello world 2. Okay, this time make sure you check the box. So we want the main method to be there. Okay, and then we say finish over here. So now we got hello world 2. Okay, so now I'm going to show you something that's slightly more useful than the first program, slightly more complicated, but of course you don't have to understand everything. I just want you to try. Okay, so now there are several things we want to do. So first of all, we have a class. We also have a main method. Okay, so now we want to somehow interact with the program. So before, the program is actually going to print either Jackie or SUNY Korea, but now this time we want the program to be a little bit smarter. The program is going to ask us enter a name into the program. Let's say if I enter Jim, and the program is going to say hello Jim. If I enter Jonathan, the program is going to say hello Jonathan. So we have some kind of interaction between the program. But how do we do that? Okay, this might seem a little bit difficult for you, but don't worry. I wouldn't expect you to memorize any line, any of the code, but just useful pattern to learn. Okay. If I do put question on the quiz, I'll certainly give you the code as well, so you don't have to memorize. Okay, so now what we need is something called a scanner. Do the following. Do scanner, and then control space. You will see that if you do control space, Eclipse is going to put a new line in the beginning for you. So that's another Java construct saying import java.util.scanner. So this is to say we are now going to use one of the library classes in Java because there's some functionality we would need. And we don't actually have to do it ourselves. It's already there. We just want to use it. That's why we are trying to say import. Okay, let me repeat again. So we started from here with nothing. So type the word scanner. And by the way, in Java, class names are capitalized. Okay, which means the first character is always in capital. Okay, yeah. So we have scanner and then control space at the end. So Java Eclipse is going to put an import at the end. And now input, just type it. I will explain this. Maybe it will make more sense on Friday or later. And then say equals new scanner and system.in. Okay, so you got scanner input equals new scanner parenthesis system.in closing parenthesis, and then there's a semicolon at the end. Okay, yeah. You don't need to understand this code here. That's fine. This line is absolutely too advanced right now. Okay, so now after that, so now this line you can understand. So let's say the program is going to somehow prompt the user to enter something. So let's say system.out.println, and then the program is going to prompt to the user to say enter a name to greet. Okay, so now I'm going to show you the interaction in a moment, but now, so once the program prints this message to the console, you as a user, you will have a chance to type on the console to say, maybe I'll type Jin, I'll type Jonathan, and then the program is going to read the string from the console. Okay, how does that work? So now I'm going to somehow to say, again, this is something called a variable in Java, which I will talk about on Friday. So this name is equal to input dot next line. Okay, somehow this line here, let me put a comment here. This line reads a string from the user. Okay, and then let me put another comment here. This line outputs a prompt to the user. Okay, everything is recorded in the video, so in case you cannot type it in time, you can also review the video. Okay, so next line here. So now we read it into the name. So now we're gonna do something similar as before. System.out.println, and now before we simply say hello world, right? That's what we said before, but now it's going to be slightly different. Whoever we're going to say hello to depends on the user. Okay, and remember the user we are somehow read the user's input into something, a variable called name. So I'm going to refer to this name over here, hello, and then plus name. Okay, let me see. We want an exclamation mark. Okay, so when you see plus over here, so plus in Java simply means you're gonna print this message, followed by that, and followed by that. That's what plus means. Okay, so now we are okay. Okay, so let me now go back to the package view here. If you again right click on the class and then run as Java application. Okay, so let me just maximize that for you. So now you see, so that's a prompt message we just saw, right? It's the system.out.println, enter a name to greet. So now let me say a very different name. Let's see, what about Daniel? How about that? If I say that, what's gonna happen is, let me, before I do that, so this line here, enter a name to greet, comes from this line over here. Remember we said before, system.out.println, enter a name to greet. Okay? And then we are going to type Daniel over here. So somehow Daniel is going to be read from input next line. And then it's going to be stored into a variable called name. So this name here is going to be used over here. So we're going to see hello Daniel. Okay, that's roughly what's going to happen. Okay, yeah. If I say that, hello Daniel, okay, and the program terminates. Let's try another one. Okay, just make sure you're comfortable with that. And let's see. So you say run as Java application here. So now let's say rather than Daniel, what about, I don't know, Klaus maybe? Okay, so now this time let's analyze the program again. This time here we see enter a name to greet. Again, this comes from this line here, enter a name to greet. But now, since we're going to type class over here, so now input our next line is going to give us class rather than Danielle, right? So now name, the variable is going to hold class rather than Danielle. And we are referring to the name over here, so it will be hello class. Hello class, right? Slightly more interesting program, but still not really terribly useful, but slightly more useful. Maybe play with that maybe for a few minutes. You can try a different name over here. Okay. And of course, now we are expecting to see a name. So whatever name we put there, it will be greeted, right? So yeah, let me just try another one. And then we go on to the next exercise. Okay, what about Roger? Yeah, hello Roger, right? Okay, so now we just completed number 5. Okay, so we go on to 6 and 7. So almost done. Yes. Sorry, say that again. Okay, I see. Notice one thing here. So the question was, let me modify the program a little bit and show you why. So let's say over here, if you simply say hello, you can see we have open quotes, hello, and then close quote. There's no space in between, right? There's no. That is why you're going to have hello. Now let me show you actually on the board. So that means you're going to have hello, followed by whatever the name is. Let's say it's Daniel, without any space. Yeah. Right? The way to fix that is to make sure in this quoted string here, you put a space. So you make sure you put a space always, right? Yeah. It's actually quite a tricky thing. So when you do your assignment, you got to make sure space and new lines are taken care of. Yeah, that's okay. It's a very good question. Okay. Yes.
What's the shortcut for the macros? Because like when I tried to
control space.
Control space doesn't work.
Control space. Okay. Let me. I'll go over that with you maybe offline. Okay, so let's go on to number 6. So basically now we're going to somehow do a little bit of variance on Hello World 2. Okay, a little bit. Okay, not too much. The code is going to be very similar, but I just want to show you with maybe with different sequences of instructions, the output can be different. So that's actually my point earlier in the lecture today. Computer is only going to execute a sequence of instructions you give to it. Okay, depending on what you give to it, it's going to have different behavior, different outputs, right? Okay, so now let's do hello. So now it will be number 6 we're doing. So it'll be Hello World 3. So all the code is there, so you can also do this at home. Okay, let me just close the previous 2. Okay, so now we're gonna have a new class. So you can say new class hello world 3. Okay, and then check the box over here for the main method so you don't have to type it. Okay, so now have a look at the instruction there. So now what you gotta do is to somehow to say you want to greet not rather than just one person, you would like to greet 2 persons. Okay, so now you can see there's a sample run over there for number 6. So for example, you can say enter the first name to greet, you enter Jackie, enter the second name to greet, you enter Jim, and then it's going to say hello Jackie and Jim. Slightly different, right? The program. So somehow you can see the difference. Well, let's just try to guess. It seems like the prompt messages are slightly different. Before we simply have enter a name to greet. So now we have enter the first name to greet, and also enter the second name to greet. And the user, us as the user, we're actually going to type in twice for the name. The first time for Jackie, the second time for Jim. And then when the program actually outputs the hello world message, it's going to say hello, Jackie and Jim. So somehow we have to store both names for the user, right? Okay, let me show you how to do that. But again, on Friday, hopefully things will make more sense. Because on Friday, we're going to talk about variables. Let's see how we can do it. So again, we're going to need a scanner. Okay, just do what we did before. Input is equal to new scanner, and you absolutely don't have to memorize this line. Okay, that's exactly the same as before. So now, the first prompt message will be enter the first name to greet. So this one should be very easy. Okay, system out the print line. So think about the sequence of things happening. So we're going to prompt the user first, system out the print line. So you're going to say enter the first name to greet. Okay? And after that, the user, you're expecting the user to type a name, right? So that's why you have to read it. And the way to read it is the same as before. So if you look back to Hello World 2, you actually have to say things like string name is equal to input dot next line, right? All you gotta pay attention to is we have a variable called name. Okay, somehow we are storing whatever user types into that variable. Okay, but now because we know we're going to prompt the user twice, so there will be two names. So why don't we say name1 and name2? Just so we can distinguish. So we have two variables rather than just one. So name1 over here, okay, rather than just name. And then after that, so we don't have to greet yet. So now we're gonna prompt the user for the second name. So you can simply just copy this line here, these two lines, just copy them and paste. Save you some typing. So now rather than saying enter the first name, you gotta say enter the second name to greet, right? And now this variable here should be name2 rather than name1. Okay, the two variables can never have the same name. They have to be different names. So to avoid confusion, so name1 and name2. Okay, so now we got name1 and we got name2. Okay, so now we can greet. So you can say system.out.println. So what we said before was hello with a space plus, that's what we said before in Hello World 2. And hello, for example, Daniel. So now we actually got two persons to greet. So we're gonna say Daniel and Jackie, for example. So what you're gonna say is name1, whoever name1 is, plus maybe and with a space in between, and also name2. So it's a little bit long. Okay, so that's a complete version. So you're gonna say system out of print line as usual, and then you would say hello with a space, name1 and name2, and with the exclamation mark at the end. Okay, let's see how this works. Let's go back to our Project Explorer here, and then right-click on Hello World 3. And now you would say run as Java application. Okay, so now that's the first prompt message, right? Enter the first name to greet. If you go back to the code here, let me show you here. So now this is where we are over here. Because you say enter the first name to greet, that's exactly what we see here. And then we're going to enter some name over here. Let's say Daniel. And then we're going to store name Daniel into name1. Agree? Okay, if you do that, it's going to say enter the second name to greet. And that's exactly what this line is doing. Enter the second name to greet. And let's say Jackie. Over here. And now Jackie is going to be stored in name2. After that, we're going to use whatever name1 and name2 are in the greeting message. So this will be Daniel, and this will be Jackie. Okay? Hello, Daniel and Jackie. Okay? Don't worry if that's too complicated. Today, I just want to show you something, right? So maybe just go over the exercise. You know, it would be a very good preview for Friday's lecture. So don't feel too frustrated. Okay, so now we got hello, Daniel, and Jackie here. So now let me ask you one thing. There is a way for me to only modify line number 13 over there in such a way that if I enter, you can see currently if I say Daniel followed by Jackie, it's going to say hello, Daniel and Jackie. How can I change the program so that it would say hello, Jackie and Daniel?
The name 2 first and
Ah, you guys are brilliant. Exactly. Right? You can play with the program. Yeah, exactly. Name 2 and name 1. Exactly. Wow. Good. Run as Java application here. And now, so now let me say Daniel, Jackie. So now I will expect to say Jackie first and then Daniel, right? Hello, Jackie and Daniel. Okay, just a very small change to the program. So you can see a computer that does exactly what we tell it to do. Okay, so now this will be Hello World 3. So now let's go to the last task for today. Okay, the last task for today would be number 7. For number 7 here, let's just read it together. So it's going to be very similar to task Hello World 3. So now we say we create another new class, Hello World 4, and now we're going to somehow change the Hello World 3 in such a way that it's going to prompt for the first name and greet right away, and prompt for the second name and greet right away. So you can see the central run in the second paper there. You can see over there, we actually got, for example, if you say Jackie here, it's going to say hello Jackie right away before you prompt for the second name. And then after the second name, it's going to say hello Jim, for example. You can kind of compare the two programs. They're slightly different. Okay? I'm going to show you how we can modify the programs. Okay? Let me create a new class first, and then I'll show you how you can modify the program very easily. So now, let's do another class here. You're going to say hello world 4. Okay, so now I'm going to cheat a little bit. So let me just go back to hello world 3, and then I'm going to copy the code. So I'm actually, in some way that can make me illustrate the point. The program will look very similar. So only copy the part for the main method. Okay, you don't have to copy the class. And then I'm going to paste. Okay, that's exactly what how Hello World 3 looks like. So now I'm going to modify this program a little bit so that it's going to take the first name, greet right away, take the second name, and greet right away. Any suggestion?
duplicate the system of line after the string name 1.
Duplicate which line? A little bit more precise.
System of
Line number 13, right?
yes.
Yes. Somehow you want to, well, not exactly duplicate because here you're saying name 2.
Slightly
Changing that, okay? Yeah. Somehow you want to do some system out of print line immediately after you got a name 1. And also do another system out of print line after name 2. Okay, that's what you got to do. Let's see how we can do that. So I'm going to copy this line here. And then right after we know who name 1 is, we're going to say hello name 1. Okay? And then I'm going to copy this line here. That'll be more useful here. Immediately after we have name 2, we're going to say hello name 2. Okay, so name 1 and name 2. Okay, in that case, let me go back to Hello World 4. Run as Java application. So now if I say, for example, again, Jackie, hello Jackie, right? And then Daniel, hello Daniel. Okay, slightly different. Okay, any questions? Yes.
So for the scanner,
Yeah.
you know that yellow squiggly line?
Oh.
Ignore that part.
Please just ignore. So let me just make it clear. So very good. Scan here, right? It's never closed, so just ignore that. So I might be able to explain that maybe towards the end of the course, but it's actually way too much distracting if I explain that to you. So don't worry about it. Just ignore it. That's absolutely fine. As long as you don't see any red underline, then you're fine. Let me illustrate one thing to you. Let's a very common mistake you might have, very common. Let's say somehow so every line of Java code in typically must have a semicolon. Let's say you forgot. You save. You can see now your file here has a cross mark. Whenever you have that, it's something called compile time error, because somehow your Java code does not conform to its syntax. So now your Java code cannot be converted into machine code for execution. So your program has not been run yet. Okay. So to fix that, put a semicolon back and save it again. So you'll be recompiled into machine code so that you can execute it. Okay, so I will suggest, so today your first job, but tomorrow is holiday, I wouldn't expect you to work too much. So maybe at least make sure you finish installing all the Eclipse and Java environments, and then maybe just go over the examples we did. Okay, don't worry too much about the small details there, just get a big picture. So the main lesson for today is, if you somehow just change the sequence of the lines a little bit, the behavior of the program will be different. So that's the main point I'm trying to make today. Okay, and on Wednesday and Thursday lab session, I'll try to do a little bit more detailed explanation. So today is the first one, so don't stress over too much. Okay, so I'm going to post a video today. Yes.